Hello there. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are or based. I think you know myself by now. I'm Silvia from the marketing department here at Eli Publishing, and welcome to our last session, last workshop, last live event organized with Eli Publishing. I'm here today, as you can see, with our dear Jane Cadwallader. I'm going to introduce her to her in a second. Before, as usual, I'd like to share with you some technical information, just for you to better follow this workshop. So the event consists of 45 minutes of workshop by Jane and 10-15 minutes of questions and answers from your side. So feel free to write down any comments or questions you might have during the sessions or at the end. I will be happy to read them aloud for you. I'm sure Jenny will be happy to answer them. Take this as an opportunity. I think seize the moment, because I think it's important to ask or share any of your doubts or anything, any queries you might have with Jane. So seize the moment, don't be shy, take this opportunity, I would say. Talking about chat or questions, you should find in your toolbar a tool which is called chat or questions. Open it and you can actually write down comments. And from another chat, which is called chat, you should receive comments from us. Like I'm going to check from time to time whether everything is fine, whether you can hear properly, etc., etc. One thing about this platform, I'm afraid, is that you won't be able to see each other's comments. So you feel you are alone, but you're not alone. There are so many of you connecting and joining us today, and I will be sitting here at the back monitoring everything, okay? Then you will receive the certificate of attendance by tomorrow afternoon. It will be sent in a PDF format, so check your inbox, okay? And then before the end of this live session, remember to download under Documents or under Material, so always in your toolbar, there's a handout kindly put together by Jane for you to study, to archive, you know, for your study archive or to share. But remember to download it before the end of the session, and you can study afterwards. I would say now it's better to follow Jane, of course. And then I'm almost finished. This video will be recorded, okay? And make sure to follow us on Facebook, to follow Eli Publishing Facebook page, because later in the next few weeks, we will be sharing the recorded video, okay? If you want to see it again, etc., etc. So I think I said everything. So I'm now very happy to introduce you to Jane Cadwallader, directly from Spain. So she's based in Spain. And she's got, you know, lots of experience of teaching to young children, to children of all ages. Actually, she has been teaching for more than 30 years. She's also a writer, she's also author, and in particular for us, she has been writing more than, you know, I think 30 graded readers. So she loves writing stories, creative stories. And she's been working very closely with an Argentine artist, is Gustavo Mazzali, a beautiful illustrator, a great illustrator. So I'm happy now to give you the floor, Jane. Pardon me, I was a little bit too long. So let's start now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I can't see you. I'm having to imagine you in my mind. But anyway, hello, how are you? I hope you're all well this afternoon. Afternoon here in Madrid. I don't know where you are, maybe morning or evening. Wherever you are, hello. I'm not going to ask you what you do in your free time, because then we won't be able to do any of the session. So I do want to tell you what we're going to do. So we're going to look at some language that we all teach. So very, very basic, important language that we teach. And I want to suggest some activities that we can do with this language to make it meaningful and motivating, using readers about children from other countries. So at the same time as developing their language abilities, we're going to develop their tolerance and respect for differences between their own and other cultures. this is linked to the for those who are interested, to the Sustainable Development Goals 16 and 4, which is about promoting peaceful, inclusive societies and appreciation of cultural diversity. Because I think I mean, I've lived quite a long time, and I think that intolerance usually comes from not knowing about something. When you know about something and you feel close to it, you normally are more tolerant about it. So we're going to look at the same time as how to develop children's language, how to develop them in a more general way, as the whole child. I don't know if you know this series, but it's really beautiful. It reminds me a bit of Dorling Kindersley. Do you know Children Just Like Me? It's a book that children have loved through the ages. I used to read it to my children who are now in their 30s. But this is a book, these books are full of bright photographs of and interesting facts that which would be interesting for children, and a very, very attractive books. And they're about the global north and the global south. So you'll see here for this is not all of them, this is just a few of the books. This one's about the Congo, about Bolivia. This one's about Istanbul, and Italy, about Florence. And then there's also a series for teens, and this is about Iceland, about the Amazon, about Korea, about Canada, all these different countries and these different cultures which are presented to children through the voice of one of the children that lives in that country. And I really think that these are really, really beautiful and worthwhile books to use with your children. I've chosen two books to use as illustrations of some of the activities we're going to do. For the younger learners, I've chosen Discover Sri Lanka with Us, because I've never been to Sri Lanka. And I thought, well, let me read that book and I'll learn something about Sri Lanka. And then My South Africa, because when I was working on this webinar, I was actually in South Africa, so it felt close to home. Okay, let's have a look. What do we teach? Now, I think that all of you will see these exponents, and you'll say, oh, yes, we all teach this. I like, I don't like, do you like, what's your favorite? And agreeing and disagreeing with likes and dislikes. Then also hobbies. We teach, what are your hobbies? What do you like doing in your free time? Then maybe a little bit more complex. What makes you happy and sad? And then conditionals. What would you like to do? What do you wish you could do more of? So but basically all talking about likes, dislikes, and hobbies. And another area is daily routines. And I think, again, that all of us teach these areas, like what the school day's like, the weekends and the holidays, meal times. So we do all of these areas with different levels of complexity from the beginning of primary to the end of secondary. So, we use things like the present simple, can, have, got with early primary, and then we go on to later to teens with the present perfect, conditionals, comparatives. So this is, I think, will be familiar to all of you as very common areas that we teach in class. And what I want to do is to suggest some activities to make these areas fun for the children, fun and motivating to learn. I've been using recently a lot of word wall. I don't know whether you know this. Unfortunately, I can't see you nodding your head or shaking it, but for those who don't know it, it's something that you can get online. You have puzzles and activities, and you can choose four for free. And when I started, this was one of the ones I chose, open the box. So if you see down here, it says edit content. Okay, so you click on that, and then you can write what you want in your boxes on this in these sentences. So and you'll see all of these are very kind of basic questions for like and favorite. And then you can add audio here. You click on that, and sometimes you have to type the sentence in again, and sometimes it automatically copies. But you can choose between American English and British English, and then you get the same sentence spoken at the same time. When you've finished, you click done, and you go back to this. And then you can choose a child to choose a box, and they say, for example, 4. So you click on 4, and up comes the question: what's your favorite food? So the children can ask each other that question, and then when they finish, they can move on to the other questions one by one. And so it's a nice way of doing dialogues, little dialogues in class to practice the present simple. And but it's more fun because they click on the boxes and get surprise questions. And then you can do the same thing in the third person. Instead of saying, all right, tell me, what is your neighbor? What is her favorite food? You can do the activity as a memory game about the child that they've been reading about in their book. So in this case, it's Satya, because this is the little girl from Sri Lanka. So they have to remember. They click on the box again, and they have to remember what was her favorite food, and if she likes acting, and the other questions. So it just makes the practice of the third person a bit more meaningful, because they're trying to remember, and they're doing it about somebody that they found out about, and sharing that information. Okay, this is another word wall activity. You'll see that the sentences are more complex. You can use the same activity for primary, but I put for teens because the questions are more complex. So in this one, you spin the wheel, and the arrow here stops by a question. Okay, then the process is the same. You ask your neighbor the question, and then when the class has finished asking, you spin the wheel again. Can you see the difference between this wheel and this wheel? Okay, there's 6, and here there are 5. Because when you've asked a question, that question disappears. So your circle becomes ever more smaller as you get less questions. Anyway, in the same way as with the primary, you can then go on and do the same thing about Riri, who's the girl in South Africa, and you can ask questions, do a memory game about Riri. What were her hobbies? And so it's like another memory game. Okay, this is another activity where we're going to we're doing she likes, and then with the agreeing and disagreeing. So me too, I like brr too, or I prefer brr. Okay, so let's have a look at this activity. The teacher says a sentence, for example, she likes science. Okay, then the children put up their hands and they say, me too, I like science too. Or if they don't like science, I prefer playing football. Okay, then you say, okay, the ones only dance if you agree, if you like science. So I think we might do this. Should we try this? Let me see if this is going to work. Let me see. Yes, it is going to. So everybody close your doors in case your husband or anybody else is around that you don't want to see. I'm going to put on some music, and well, first of all, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to put in the chat box agreeing or disagreeing. And then I'm going to play some music and you can dance if you agree. So, she likes acting. Okay, everybody put in the chat box, me too, or I prefer watching TV, for example. Okay. I can't see the chat box, so I just hope you're doing it.
Yes,
Okay.
I can confirm our teachers are already, writing some answers. For example, me too. Actually, I prefer singing. I prefer dancing. I prefer reading.
Okay.
Me too. So different.
Okay. Great.
Different
Okay.
answers.
So now I'm going to put on some music, and if you agree with Satya, you dance. Okay. Here we go. So below juice mixed with a little ginger. Oh, girl, I wanna be with you, but you know they got enough time for me. I wanna live with you. Okay, let's try another one. She likes meeting her friends. So you learners, you put me too, or I prefer watching TV or playing football. Okay.
Many me too. I would say the answers. Yeah.
I did that on purpose. I thought everybody's going to like that, so we can. I don't think anybody doesn't like meeting their friends. Okay, is everybody ready? Let's have we can have another dance. Let's just see. Sweet vodka, your love is sweeter. So below juice mixed with a little ginger. Oh, girl, I wanna be with you, but you know they got enough time for me. I wanna live with you. I can see reason why I can't let go. Girl, you never know, so you come pass up. But I'm so far to find your love. Girl, you never know, so you come pass up. Okay, I think you get the idea. Okay, so it's a nice way of practicing likes and agreeing and disagreeing, and at the same time getting the children up to do a bit of actions. Okay, here's another a dialogue that you can do. This one is from Word Wall. They match the activities to the pictures, and then they ask each other questions. What are your hobbies? What do you do in your free time? And then they can go on to agree and disagree, and then they can go on to do the same thing about Riri and her hobbies. Okay, this is an activity that I like. So they read the book, or they read the chapter, whatever you want to do, and they write 3 sentences. So 2 of them should be true and 1 false. So you can see that these sentences are very simple, but one of them is not true. So all the children write their sentences, and then they take turns to read them out in class, and the other children have to try to remember and say which one is not true. In this case, I'll tell you the first one's not true because it's an island in the Indian Ocean. So that's the one that's not true. But it's just a way of getting them to write sentences, because it's quite difficult. Children quite often don't like writing, but this is giving them, it's like making writing into a game. So they quite enjoy it because they want to try to catch the others out. All right, this is a very nice activity. It's quite difficult to explain. I'll try to explain it. Okay. You put the questions on the board and you give them time to think. All right. So, and then you call 3 children to the front of the class to tell the rest of the class their answer. you tell the children, the rest of the class, to listen very carefully. And you have a quiz master, which can be you, or you can choose children to be the quiz master. And then the class asks the 3 children at the front the questions. So which part did you like best? So for example, I don't know, I like the bit about Riri's school. What did you learn about her country? What 2 new words did you learn? So they ask the 3 children one by one those questions. And then those 3 children sit down. And now it's the turn of the quiz masters, because they're going to do a quiz. And they ask the children, who said they liked the part about Riri's school best? And the rest of the class have to try to remember which of those 3 children said that. Do you get the idea? Who said they learned about, I don't know, about Nelson Mandela? So maybe one of the children said that they learned about Nelson Mandela. So the children have to say that was Maria who said that. So it's a way of practicing the very, very kind of basic language, but at the same time making it into like a memory game, and also kind of challenging them to listen carefully, which we know that children are not terribly good at doing. Okay, this is another little activity where you put, this is for younger learners, where you put on the 4 walls of the classroom, you put the 4 morning, afternoon, evening, night, and then you have in the middle of the classroom flashcards. They can be visual or they can be word cards. And what the children do is they stick the flashcards on the right wall. So wake up, maybe night. I wake up at night sometimes. So wake up, they put morning. So they stick the flashcards on the right wall. Sometimes you need to discuss which wall, but have a shower. Some cultures, I don't know in your country, but for example, where I spent a lot of my time in Uganda, they have a shower in the morning and the evening. They have showers twice a day. So that you may, and brush teeth, maybe you're very good and you brush your teeth in the morning, the afternoon, the evening after each meal. So you can have a bit of a discussion about which wall. At the end, you can see which wall has the most flashcards. Okay. And then you can do the same activity, but do the same for the child in the reader, and talk about which wall was different to yours. Maybe there are some things that they don't do. Maybe they don't do karaoke, for example. And so maybe there are some things they don't do, or some walls which are different. So you can look at them and discuss that, and which wall has the most flashcards. Here's another activity to practice this language. This is very good for generating questions, and the sentences that I've chosen are very good for teens practicing the present perfect. So I'm going to tell you 3 sentences about me. 2 of them are true, and 1 is false. It's not true. So you have to ask me questions to find out which one is not true. Okay, to guess. You have to ask questions and then you think, oh, I think that one's not true. So let's see. The first one, I like eating grasshoppers. These are grasshoppers. If anybody is in doubt of a grasshopper, can you write questions to put in the chat box? And Sylvia will read them out to me. I like eating grasshoppers. Any questions?
Yes, just bear a second because there's a little bit of delay, but yes. So first question to you is, how do they taste?
Oh, they're actually very delicious. They're very crunchy. They're crunchy, delicious.
When was the last time you ate them?
Last time I ate them was in May, because they're seasonal. They come in May and November. So the last time I ate them was May.
How often do you eat them then? So, I mean, you've already answered, I think.
Yes, I eat them as often as I can in May and November. Okay, let me give you the next question. I like traveling. Okay, questions.
Okay. How often do you travel?
A lot. Now that I'm semi-retired, I travel a lot. I spend my life traveling. I've just come from Uganda. I'm now in Spain. Next week I'm in England. The following week I'm in Ireland. The next week I'm back in England, and I'm coming back to Spain, and I'm going back to Uganda. I travel a lot, and I love going to different countries.
And how many countries?
Oh,
sorry.
How many countries
have you visited?
Have I?
Just to test if this is true.
Many. There's still some countries I haven't been to. I would like to go to. I've never been to Vietnam. I'd love to go to Vietnam. I've never been there. And I haven't been to China. I'd like to go to China too, but many countries I've been to. Okay, my favorite animal is the shark. Any questions?
Okay, so are you sure? This is the first question. do you play with a shark when you meet it?
No. I just admire them. I admire them from the boat. I don't play with them.
Okay, this is another interesting question from teacher Rima. Do you like diving then?
Yes, I like snorkeling. I don't actually like deep sea diving because it makes me feel seasick. But I like snorkeling. You know, the thing where you wear a mask and you just go on the surface. Yes, and I've seen a shark actually in the Galapagos. I was in the Galapagos and we saw sharks, but they weren't dead ones. Okay, very good. Listen, now what I want you to do is put in the box which number you think is not true. Is it 1, 2, or 3? One of those is not true. Which one is it?
Let's wait for a few seconds. They are getting there. They're getting the answer. Okay, I can see the majority is writing number 3 is not true, but also number 1.
Okay.
It's collecting many options.
Yeah, okay, it's actually number 3. My favorite animal is not the shark. I don't like sharks. They frighten me. It's not my favorite animal. So number 3 is not correct. But you see how many questions that has generated, and quite sort of interesting, because it's interesting to find out what other people like and what their favorite animals are. Okay, so up to now, most of the activities we've done, not all of them, some of them have actually included higher order thinking skills, but most of them have been on these lower order: remembering, understanding, applying, especially remembering things from the book, showing that we understand what we've read, and applying that to activities. So now, can we look at some activities which are more which test the brain more? So they're more higher order thinking skills, where we need to interpret more. Let's just see. And at the same time, work on these, help the children to do some work on the issues raised in promoting peaceful, inclusive societies and cultural diversity. So let's have a look at some of these activities. Well, one is this pre-reading, which is very kind of searching. What countries would you like to visit and why? And why do you think it's important to learn about people from other countries? Those are quite, you have to think quite a lot to decide that. And what differences do you think you'll find between your country and the country that you're going to be reading about? And what things do you think will be the same? What's your favorite kind of weather? And I wonder whether the weather will be the same in the book you're reading. And what kind of food do you think they eat there? So these are kind of to get children thinking and analyzing what they know already and what they predict they're going to be finding out about. Then this is a nice activity for comparing everyday life. Actually, this is my book. This is the first book ever in the series of the real life Ellie series, and it was about a child's life in Uganda, which is where I spend about half of my life now. And this activity, but you can do this for any book. Basically, you read the sentences and you write the number in the correct circle. So, is it true for both Nyangoma and me, just for Nyangoma, or me, but not Nyangoma? So, I'm 12 years old. Well, for us who are, for me certainly, and you, I'm sure, that would be true for Nyangoma and not for me. But for the children, they may well be 12 years old when they read this book. We have computers at home. That would be number 2. You'd probably put in C, because Nyangoma certainly doesn't have a computer at home. There's no electricity. I wear a uniform to school. Well, this might be in A, because you would have found out from the book that Nyangoma she's wearing her school uniform now with a grass skirt put around it, but she wears a uniform. I live in a house made of mud. That's, I think, probably for almost everybody who's reading this book would be B. Okay, so do you see? So the children are like reading and thinking about whether it's true for both of them, whether they're different or they're the same from this child in Uganda. Okay, this is another example, more where what you do is you write your nationality, your town, city, or the details about yourself here. You ask a partner, so then you write your partner's answers here. You go back to your book and you answer the questions about Satya here. Okay, then you can do a role play where you work in pairs, where the children work in pairs. One of them is themselves and one of them is Satya. If you like, they work in threes. One of them is themselves, one is a partner, and one is Satya. So they go through these questions and compare their lives and their experiences. But you see, it's very basic language. They'll be saying, I'm from Spain. I'm from, I don't know, maybe there's somebody, I'm from Poland, if it's a Polish child in the class. Oh, and I'm from Sri Lanka. And then you can even say, where's Sri Lanka? Where's Poland? So, you can, it's very simple, basic language. Okay, a bit higher level. They can fill in the answers here from the reader. Then they write 6 sentences about themselves, like the ones in exercise 1. And then they find out how many of your sentences are the same as your partner's. And how many of your sentences are the same as the ones about Ruri? Okay, so again, what they're doing is comparing and contrasting their life and the life of the child in the book, but using very basic language, which they would be doing exercises with normally. It's just doing it with a different focus, because they're learning about a child from another culture. Then adapting a story to a different culture. So this is a creative thinking skill. In the book of Satya, they were putting on a school show, and they'd done the whole show, and they got the parents there, and they were doing their show, and they were really happy. And then they prepared some food for the parents, and a monkey came in the window and ate their food. They had no food to give the parents. That was the story in the book. So could that story happen in your country? Well, at least in Spain, no. We didn't have monkeys. But so you retell the story using a setting and character from your own country. Maybe the projector breaks down, or the internet goes, or something. But what's important is to give them some scaffolding, some help to write stories, not just leave them to do it without any help. So here you can see this is the butterfly story elements. So they have to think, where did it happen, when, who were the main characters, and what was the plot. And this other one for teens, I really like this idea. As a story writer myself, I hate stories which are flat, when nothing happens. Something has to happen in a story, otherwise it's not a story, it's a situation. So in this one, you start off at the bottom of the mountain, orientation, introduce the characters, the setting. Then you start going up. How will you build excitement? You get to the climax. What's the problem? And then as you go down, the problem is resolved, and you get down to the bottom of the mountain with the end of the story. So I think that's a very nice graphic organizer for story writing. This is another thing that, this is another very nice activity, again, with very easy language, but adding a non-linguistic task, which is to decide whether to evaluate whether this sentence is a fact or an opinion. Is it an F or an O? I'm going to put some sentences up about Ruri, and I want you to put F if you think it's a fact and O if you think it's an opinion in the chat box. So, oh, it's about Satya, sorry. Satya is 11 years old. Is that a fact or is it an opinion? F or O? Put it in the box.
F. So it's a fact.
Okay, great. Her best friend, that's this lady here, looks friendly. F or O?
O. Opinion.
Opinion. Her uniform is not a very practical color.
The white one, you mean?
Yes.
In the picture.
Yes.
I can read here a little bit of mixture between fact and opinion. Yeah, to this one, to the last one.
Well, I mean, it's actually, I mean, you might think it's a fact because that's your opinion. I mean, you can't, I mean, some people might think that that's a very, I think it's an opinion. I mean, it's my opinion. I don't think that's a practical color for any child's uniform anywhere in the world. And I'm sure that Sri Lanka is not, I mean, it looks pretty dusty to me. I think it's not very practical. But if you said fact, it's probably you think it's, your opinion is so strong, it's a fact. I can appreciate that. Eh? The next one. Oh, sorry, the next one. I've got to do the next one. She eats great food. F or O?
Sorry, give me a second. Oh, opinion.
Yes, it's an opinion because some people might not like that food, but you might think.
Yeah, it's personal taste. Yeah.
She likes traveling in a tat-tat. I mean, if you'd read the book, you'd know that it's true because she says that she likes traveling in a tat-tat. And this is also a fact because she has maths, English, science lessons, and she also does sewing and dance classes. That's in the book. But you see this activity where you're actually reading very simple sentences, but it's like you're internalizing them because you're being asked to think outside the box and to think whether is this a fact or opinion, not just true and false, but fact or opinion, which is quite a different concept. It's a concept I think many politicians could have studied a bit better at school, actually. All right, sharing your opinions, teens. Many of these books lend themselves to very enriching and interesting topics. So in this one, it's about green energy and climate change. In the book about Ruri, it's about she likes sport. So the discussion point is what's your favorite sport and why are team sports good? What can team sports teach us? So it's about sport and what sport can teach you. And then also in the book about South Africa is about looks. You know, and I think especially for teens, this last question, do you think it's right to decide if you like someone or not by the way they're dressed? I mean, there's a very kind of relevant discussion points for teens. And this one I love, eh? Do you have things in your life that you never want to lose or change? Write a list of things that are special to you. This comes from the book about the rainforest, but I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. Again, don't just get them to do the discussion. Give them a graphic organizer so that their thoughts are organized before they discuss or before they write. So here's an idea of how you can do it. Giving your opinion, the main reason, the second reason, the third reason, in each case, information and details, and a conclusion. So it's not, so it's like they're ordering their ideas and ordering their ordering their language. They're more likely to give their opinion in language that is accurate if they've been given a chance to organize their ideas before they speak or write. Okay, this is just, I'm not going to, because I don't want to go over into the time that we have for questions, but these are just some ideas which you'll have on your handout about creative speaking and writing ideas for younger learners. Here, there's 2 ideas about posters. So with traditional clothes and animals, making a menu of typical food from your country. Listening to music from Satya's country. Do you like it? You don't like it? I like it. I don't like it. I like it because it's whatever, because it's good for dancing, for example. Design a T-shirt with a slogan. Write a poem or a song comparing Satya's life to yours. And then for teens, what makes Riri happy? And you? It's an important question. And do you do enough of it? Okay, this is taking it a bit further. What food do you think she'll like, and what do you think she might find strange? I'm sure you thought it was strange to eat grasshoppers, but people in Africa think we're very strange that some people in Europe eat snails and things that live in the sea like prawns. They think that's very strange. It's very culturally bound. Okay, you're going to visit Riri. So after reading the book, where do you want to go? She's come to visit you. Describe your family and friends and tell her where you're going to take her. So it makes those sort of things which you get asked to do in class anyway, but it makes it more relevant and meaningful because you've got somebody in your head that you're writing to. After reading the book, would you like to go and spend some time? Which part of the book did you find most interesting? And prepare a presentation. Okay, so I've kind of whizzed through those, but they're all ideas that you could use with any of these books in the Real Live series. Okay, I just wanted to, at the end just to do a bit of pulling things together to conclude with what we're adding to our language classes by using these activities. We've already talked about the thinking skills, the lower level, the lower order, and the higher order. All of those we've used. We've used inclusion. You know, in fact, in the SDG that we're talking about is peaceful and inclusive societies. So we've talked about inclusion. Inclusion is very important. Then if you go around these life skills, I mean, most of these we've done. Self-awareness, knowing yourself, empathy, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, critical thinking, which is this, creative thinking, decision-making, problem-solving, effective communication, interpersonal. So you can see that here we've done most of these life skills. What we're doing is adding to English some work on life skills. And lastly, we've been doing some work on the Sustainable Development Goals, the ones that relate to culture and tolerance. A last thought, something that I believe that is very important, whatever talk I do, I always mention this. You know, this change your words to change your mind. If the children say, no, it's too difficult, it's difficult, I can't do it, You know, change those words. I'm on the right track. I'll improve with practice. You know, this is too hard. This may take some effort, but you'll get there. You know, I'm not good at this. You're just getting started. You know, these things of changing the mindset so that they don't, so even though things are challenging, they enjoy the challenge. They don't think, oh, it's too difficult. Let me just go back to describing the way someone's dressed. So that's my last thought for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. It's basically my main message has been, we shouldn't forget we're language teachers. I sometimes think that we're expecting teachers to do too many different things now. We've got to do inclusion, and we've got to do thinking skills, and we've got to include literacy skills, and we've got, you know, and you just think, oh my goodness, you know, the old days we used to just teach English. You know, we're still teaching English. You know, but what I've tried to show today is that you can enrich the teaching and learning of English by including work on children from different cultures who have different realities to the children in your class, and that it will make it more motivated, make this basic language of likes, dislikes, hobbies, everyday activities, you know, it'll make it more meaningful, because they'll see that those things that they do are actually different to things, or actually maybe similar. Some things are similar, some things are different to children in other cultures. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. And now, if you have any questions, I'd be very, very happy to answer them. So Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you very much. So yes, let's start straight away with the first question. Okay, how many hours do you estimate is the right amount of time to spend on a reader?
Well, you know, I don't think there's any rule about that. I think it depends on several things. How many hours you've got. You know, if you're limited in time, you can always do this. What's it called? The switched classroom, or I can't remember the name for it.
The flipped classroom.
The flipped classroom. That's right. They can do the reading at home and the activities in class. You know, if you've got more time, you can do reading aloud. Reading aloud is actually very good. They can read bits of it aloud. You know, you've got a lot of time. They can. It really depends a bit on the time you've got, and also on how interested they are. If you remember that children learn when they're motivated, they're thinking, and they're engaged. So if they're engaged in the reader and thinking and learning and enjoying it, they're more likely to learn. So, I mean, I think it depends on those two factors, whether they're interested and whether and the amount of time you've got is obviously a limit. But more and more, I am of the view that we really learn through extensive reading. You know, you can learn, it's important to learn grammar and learn vocabulary, but to actually see that in a text about a child in another culture, I think probably fixes that language more in the brain than if they just learn it from the course book. It's my own feeling.
Okay. Thank you. Then there's another question saying, okay, what would you help children? How would you help children who find reading more difficult? And because it's a similar question saying, when children do not like reading or have a difficult approach to reading, especially foreign language, would you suggest to choose lower level of language of the reader, maybe so that they start getting more engaged and start getting to read better than a more difficult one, than a more difficult level? Sorry, I hope I was clear.
Yeah, no, you're clear, and I think it's a very good question. And I think I am convinced that it's best for them to start reading something which is easy. There's nothing that puts you off reading so much as when you don't understand. Now, I remember when I first started reading in Spanish, my husband gave me a book by, oh God, I can't even remember the author, but I just couldn't read it. It put me off reading in Spanish for years. You know, it's much better to go for something easy. You imagine you're teaching teens, and they find that they don't like reading and they find reading difficult. Get one of the readings from the earlier series. You know, it's the worst thing is when it's too difficult. And you know the 5-finger rule. I don't know if you know that, but basically this is something that was developed in America. Is like when you read a page, you should count the number of words that you don't understand on it. You don't immediately understand. If there's 1 or 2, it's fine. If there's 2 or 3, you know, it's a bit challenging, but actually if there's 2 or 3, it's probably the best thing because it's going to challenge you a bit, but it's not going to be too much. If there's 4 or 5, it means that you should read that in class, not at home on your own. You know, because it means that it's going to be, you're going to have to stop, and the chances are that you won't be able to read fluently. So I think that's a good thing to do with your children. Get them to read a page and say how many words they understand, and then on the basis of that, maybe choose an easier reader. There's nothing worse than not understanding, because that puts people off reading and they'll never read. It's much better to read at a lower level. You know, also you can help children by telling them, okay, the first time you read the chapter, read it. Don't worry about words you don't understand. Then go back, make a note of the words you don't understand and ask me or look in a dictionary. You know, that's another thing. And you can also do work with children on working out the meaning of words from context. You know, there's things that you can do to help them, but basically my main message is don't give them a text that's too difficult for them, because it'll be counterproductive. That's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you. So very last question, I would say. Okay, there's a teacher Juliet. She's sorry, I'm reading to the other. I'm looking at the other camera. So there's a teacher Juliet. She's asking whether she can apply the similar activities, but to students who have a very basic level of English. Of course, before you answer, Jane, I just wanted to mention that we have the series Always by Jane Cadwallader. So a series of stories written for very young learners. For example, My World, My Water, you know, Katie the Pirate, etc., etc. So it's a different level, and I would definitely suggest those ones. I'm writing down now the link to the website just for this teacher to know these are the series, maybe for more a basic level of English.
But not My Water, My World. That's quite difficult, actually. What's easy what are easy are the things like the Katie stories, the Uncle Jack stories, the Granny Fix-It stories are the easiest. Could you just repeat Juliet's question?
She said, how could I apply those activities, the one you showed, in a rural school where students do not have a basic, do not even have a very, you know, a basic level of English? So are there any other options, any other things to involve them or to encourage them?
Well, I think most of the activities I've done, you could adapt. It's just a question of adapting it. So you put, for example, the 3 questions you could put: she is 11. She likes bread. She goes to a little school, for example. That's very basic, very basic English. So it's just a question of adapting it to the level of your children, and you're the one who knows best the level. But I think most of the activities you could adapt either down or up.
Okay.
I would love to see you. I mean, for example, the box question. You know, the one in the questions in the box, you could put very simple questions in there, like, do you like ice cream? Do you like? And if you use just the same, if it's a very basic level, you use the same structure for each of the boxes, then, you know, that's easier. Do you like ice cream? Do you like sharks? Do you like, I don't know what vocabulary.
Which color do you like? Which is your favorite color?
Then you start getting into a different structure. What I'm saying is that if you want to make it very, very basic, just use the same structure. Do you like, do you like, do you like, do you like, so that they get the, they're not confused by the structure. They just have to know the vocabulary. So that's a way that you can do it. Using more simple language and more repeated language makes things easier.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you very much for being here for this useful and practical webinar. Of course, thanks to all our teachers who have attended and have joined us today. I'm very pleased. So many questions, so many interaction, you know, during the webinar. It's always very nice to see this active role, active participation. I just would like to remind you to follow us on Facebook, because then later in the next few weeks and next month, possibly, we will let you know when this webinar, the video of this webinar, will be available. Okay, so make sure to follow us on Facebook, Eli Publishing page.
You've disappeared.
I'm here. I can still see you, Jane. I think there's something happening.
I can still hear you. I can still hear you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. And
thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Jane. Bye. 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 Bye, everyone.